Hi there, everybody. It's Lynne White with Getting Through It with Lynne White and Friends. And today, my friend and special guest is the great Sharon Mahn. Welcome, Sharon.
Thank
And
you for having me.
Lillian Egan, our erstwhile producer, also here to ask a few questions. Of course, while we're here, we always talk about good times and bad times, and all of us go through both, right? And Sharon has some great stories of survival, how she's gone through some of the dark tunnels in her life. And I want to just start off by saying Sharon is incredible. She's a lawyer, she's a headhunter for other lawyers, she's a philanthropist. She is just a great girl's girl, an Aaron Brockovich of her time. She fights for women's rights, the underdog, and she always comes out on top. That's why we wanted to get you here. So tell us your story. What was your lowest point and how did you get through it?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on the show. What an honor to be here, and especially with two strong women. And Lynn, I know your story and how amazing you are. So to have someone like you speak with me is just quite a privilege. So I'm so happy to be here. Um, I have been living in New York 24 years. I've been through ups and downs. But one of the biggest stories that I've had is that I had survived a lawsuit, and it has been ongoing for 17 years. I'm still involved.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
17
It's
years.
it's the gift that keeps giving. Um,
And draining, right?
it does definitely tests resilience for sure. Um,
And you
but
got it.
It is what it is. We all have things in life that we go through. And I think that by being a lawyer, it was a little bit easier to understand, but not, um, you don't have to love it, but I understood it. And it's just started out like 17 years ago where I was working with a company, and I happened to have been very fortunate to have been one of their big rainmakers. I was turning 40. I wanted to leave the company just to go someplace smaller. A lot was going on in my life at that time where my mom was very sick and she had died of leukemia at 62 years old.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, thank you. So early on, when you have an experience like that, you learn that life is short, and
Yes.
usually your professional life, no matter where you are on that arc, usually takes second place to family and the people that you love.
Right.
So to me, I made a decision to leave the firm, and which is on public record, which I'm very careful to speak about, as it's an ongoing lawsuit, and then I was sued.
Wow. And you started out thinking, okay, I'm going to sue. I have my rights. I know what they are. I'm a lawyer. I'm a good lawyer. I'll get through this suit. But it wasn't quite so easy.
It's not so easy. One thing that people don't realize in every single lawsuit is that you really honestly have no control over what goes on in a lawsuit. It takes a life of its own. I think that's why statistically they say that 99% of cases settle, is that you don't want to sometimes roll the dice or take that chance. So my case was in particular very complex with complex issues. And I just really wanted to leave the firm and work somewhere else. I got sued, and I've been, through federal court and then arbitration and then state court and
My
so
God.
forth. So I think what it really teaches you is that sometimes life throws things your way, but you have to be very careful about how you react. And I think that's the main thing. You can't control what comes your way, but you can certainly control how you act in particular situations and how you carry yourself.
And what did you do to get through it? Because, first of all, who needs the negativity in their lives, right? Life
Right.
is short. You want to be happy. You want to be strong. You want to feel like you're on top of the world. But when you're in a lawsuit, even for a year, that's just, it feels like the world is closing in on you. And it's kind of a Davy and Goliath story, right?
Completely.
Because you're suing somebody very famous at the top of the firm, and you're one person and it has been dragged out. They thought that you would quit at some point, just say, throw your hands up and say, enough,
Yeah.
I've had it, I'm gone. But you just hung in there, still there.
Yeah, hang in. And I think the most important part is that, well, they dragged me into the lawsuit, and it's very scary. And even as a lawyer by background, ironically, I stopped practicing law. I'm still in good standing with my bar license for 35 years, but I stopped practicing because I wanted to go into headhunting, which I love and which is such an exciting career. I love my clients. I love my candidates. Ironically, I didn't want the acrimony of being a lawyer.
Right, right, right.
But yet, once I became a headhunter, I was dragged into a lawsuit. So the skills came in handy. But even as a lawyer, it's very personal to be sued.
Absolutely.
You're not behind some type of guise where you're not a corporation. It's just your name that's out there. You're the one hanging high to dry. It's your money being drained, your reputation being questioned. It's an extremely humbling experience. And frankly, I understand why people get very nervous and scared. And, a lot of people experience post-traumatic stress disorder. It's a very tough situation to be in, no matter what you do for a living, whether you're a lawyer or not. It's very humbling when you are the person. You're not defending someone. You are the person being sued. So it's very scary.
But I love what you're saying. You turned it around. You became a headhunter. And I remember you telling stories about being in your pajamas in your house and getting one person a job. You're on the phone with one company and one lawyer, and you're putting people together and you're making deals. You didn't let it get to you. You owned it, you turned it around, and you survived.
I think that's important, Lynn, and that's a great point because I show you right now, I am in a dress. I'm not actually in my pajamas doing deals. I'm actually dressed up for the interview today, but I,
Good
but
to know.
but but the main thing is just to keep going. I mean, a lot of people think that, a battle defines you and it doesn't. It's your life chapter. It's one chapter in a long line of your life. Your life is your story and you can always come back. And I think that's the main thing that I always coach people that are going through similar trauma situations that don't give up. You can always come back.
That's right.
You never realize how strong you are until you get tested.
Right.
And sometimes you just have to be courageous and just step out there. And that's the first step and take that step. You don't know what ripple effect that will have for you and for others and how you can be strong for other people and how you might be helping people without realizing it. I think half the battle is just keep your spirits up. Just do it another day. Just hang in.
So, so important. And I know you always give back too. You just mentioned that your mother died of cancer when she was 62. You were younger, but you gave back to the hospital, to a cancer hospital. You still do that, right? You raise money, you run, you do marathons to raise money. You're always giving back.
Yeah, absolutely. I think part of it is just realizing that, your story is important and it's important to you. But I think part of my uh, courage to move forward was realizing that I can make a difference for other people and I can find the silver lining in something. And it sounds so cliche to like, oh, you found the silver lining, good for you. No, it's when you help other people, it truly does help you. It's not just a tagline, it really is something that's important. And my parents were very much that way, and that's the way I was raised. So for me, giving back is just a way of life, just to help other people. And in particular, with the Cancer Society and the Leukemia Foundation, I've run marathons. Although I have to clarify that when I say run, it could be walk or crawl, but I
Right.
get across the finish line
You're
at
in
some
it.
point. I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm a presence definitely on the marathon trail. I'm an enthusiastic runner. I always have a good attitude, but I give back in every single marathon or 5K or half marathon that I run. And I also believe I'm an inspiration because people think if she can do it, I can do
That is
it.
correct. And
So
that's what it's
you get out
about.
there and do it.
Lillian, I know you must have some kind of question for this amazing woman.
Oh, of course. I mean, I've got a million questions. I want a little bit of what Sharon's got. I mean, she's got a
I
great
know, right?
I'm not
It's called attitude. And it's such
in
a bright attitude.
of itself is an inspiration to me. But I do have maybe a bit more of a challenging question, then I'll come back to some of that lighter stuff. I mean, I'm curious about not to dwell too much on the lawsuit, but I am curious. I mean, it sounds like you were at a work environment where you maybe had friends or colleagues around you, and then in the wake of the lawsuit, people must act differently. And, at the end of the day, you making a decision to leave that job for personal reasons, to be around friends and family and to focus more on that. How did you reckon with people that you thought you knew and that you had relationships with who maybe all of a sudden weren't acting in your best interest? How do you deal with those kinds of changing relationships while you're already dealing with the loss of your mother and other very challenging things in your life?
Great
That's such a
question.
great question. And it's something that people don't think about sometimes when they're in a lawsuit until they're actually in it and then they understand what's happening. I think for a lot of people, first of all, I was very fortunate because a lot of my friends just stuck by me. I still have the same friends that were part of the workplace. And On the other hand, I also know that sometimes, it's very scary when people, I keep using that word scared because I turn it around, and on the flip side is courage. I think it's hard for some people to come forward because lawsuits entail that they have to have their own lawyers, that if they're a witness, they're coming through. It's a financial burden for them. And it's, sometimes it's hard to come forward. It's easy when everybody states like, hashtag me too, we stand up for women, but I can understand the reasons why people don't do it. I understand why sometimes it's hard to stand up. You have your own family, you have your own life to think of, your own world. It's a very daring thing to do, and it's not easy. So I never judge anyone because everybody has their situations, but I do think that it makes it even better when you do know the people that do stand by you. It makes your friendships and your professional relationships that more richer. You have that much more of a bond. And I am very grateful because my clients and my candidates stood by me. And for that, I'm extremely grateful. And I can't fault that. A lot of people don't have that, but I did.
Yeah. I want to ask you a question about the Me Too movement because this is very much, what you're going through has a lot to do with that. Do you think the Me Too movement helped or hurt women in the work environment? I mean, when you look at the things that are being thrown out there now, woke, who's going to hire a woman with, they're going to have a lawsuit against you because you said the wrong thing. I think that the pendulum has swung too far in the other direction. Do we need a Me Too movement? Did we need it? Of course we did. Things were out of control in a lot of work environments,
Yes.
but has it gone too far in the other direction?
Yeah, I think back to women before us who were trailblazers in the workforce and what they had to go through. I mean, sometimes when you watch like a 1970s movie and you see just the workplace, even just Working Girl from the 80s, you
Right.
can't even believe that that actually happened. And in some respects, the Me Too movement has been great as far as getting us role models and saying, look, we can speak up. And that's the big advantage that we have had because sometimes people would never talk about accusing someone of sexual assault or sexual harassment. And it makes it a lot easier to do that now. Whereas before, I believe there would be a certainty of you being blackballed in the industry, either directly or indirectly, if you brought it up before. But what I do think, Lynn, is that we need more lawyers out there who really help women and not just, write about it or say hypothetically what needs to be done, defend these women because a lot of times it's financial resources that women don't have. I mean,
Right.
we're blessed, we've done well financially, but that's not, 95% of the women out there. They need help. They need guidance. They're nervous. They don't know what to do. They don't know where to turn. We need like strong Gloria Steinems out there. We need someone out there really advocating on women's behalf.
Right.
Some are doing it, but I think more should step up to the plate.
Right. And you look at what's going on with the Epstein files. There are a lot of women out there who have not come forward because they're afraid of the repercussions. They're afraid of what might happen to their families if they do. They're afraid of being ostracized and denigrated, and becoming more victimized than they were even before. And you realize that there has to be a way for women to be protected, not just in the work environment, but in their everyday lives,
I
because
agree.
we are more vulnerable as women.
Yeah,
We're the last ones hired and the first ones fired, especially African American women
that's
right
right.
now, especially in this environment. And I don't know, Lillian, have you seen that in your work environment or even in college? Have you noticed that your generation is going through tough times too in that way? Or has it subsided? Are people more cautious because they know that they will be called out on it?
It's somewhere in the middle. I think we're in that kind of shadow period of, because people worry about threats, they're aware of them, but the culture is not 100% improved. There's not a
Right.
night and day, oh, all of a sudden these things happen and we have a better vocabulary for talking about it, and so it's no longer an issue. I mean, it takes it I fear it will take a long time for it to continue to get to a place of true safety and equality in the workplace for people of all orientations and identities, not just for violence or unsafety for women. And so I I fear that you might relate to this when I say that I don't know maybe any women who've gone through a workplace or university experience completely unscathed. I think it's still such a common experience for women, whether it's just a comment or some kind of harassment or it's a long-standing, issue. I think it's still extremely common, unfortunately. But it is nice that we at least have spaces like this where we can talk about it. I think that is the biggest jump from prior generations to mine, that these are things that are just, we're on a regular podcast and we can talk about this kind of thing. So that helps.
Sunlight is the best way to go about fixing things. You have to let people know what's going on, no matter how scared you may be of what may happen because of it. Speak up. There are people out there like Sharon who will fight for you, fight for your rights, and help you and protect you. You do not have to feel like you are a victim for your whole life. And I think that's what a lot of women and some men fear, that they will get blackballed, that no one will want to hire them if they speak up. But I think that there's strength in numbers. The more of us who do that, who have done that, the better. It's always that way.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And sometimes also it's the subtle nuances. It's not just black or white where you say, I've been assaulted and therefore I can vindicate my rights. Sometimes if you're working somewhere and you feel that you speak up, but then you become a quote unquote problem, what the workforce might do is something indirect where they'll start taking deals away from you. And then they'll say, well, you're not doing well financially. It's also the indirect backlash that occurs that sometimes isn't spoken about or sometimes can't be pinpointed exactly. Something's happening, you have the gut feeling, but you can't quite prove it legally. And that's where that gray area comes into effect. And that really can hurt some of the women's careers out there. They might speak up. They might think that they're doing the right thing. They may document it, but at the same time, the workplace may take efforts to eliminate you anyway. And you won't have an actionable response to that legally because they can find legal ways to terminate your workplace rights as well.
If there is anyone out there who's listening, who hears this, and not just victims in the workplace, I'm going to put it out there, even people who may have been assaulted sexually as children, a la the Epstein files or something similar. What do they do? Where do they go? Who do they turn to right now?
There's a lot of good lawyers out there right now that are helping with the class action lawsuits. I think with the New York Survivors Act that was enacted in 2022, that was a huge boon to help survivors come forward. And what I like about that, Gretchen Carlson was behind that whole policy, and she strongly advocated for that based on her experience on what she went through at Fox News and the implications that she had suffered through because of her with her speaking up. But survivors now can have a voice and speak out and not just be hidden in arbitration where it's confidential, but can speak out publicly about companies or others that have sexually assaulted them, that have abused them. And I think that's a powerful tool. To your point, Lynn, speaking out is such a powerful tool. And what people don't know is that sometimes you might sign an arbitration clause where you cannot speak out.
Right.
So you think that your rights are never going to be heard. You're not going to be able to voice your concerns. And companies and entities get away with the abuse because it's not public. But with this 2022 Survivor Act, people can now speak out in courts. And for the most part, it's been very effective. It might not be the be all, but at least it's working towards something where survivors are starting to gain strength and get a voice. And I think we need to hear their voices. We need to understand who are these entities, these companies, all these people that are perpetuating the abuse. And you have to speak out to stop it. We have to know about it to stop it.
Amen. If someone wants to get in touch with you, how would they go about doing that?
You can find me on my website, or you can find me by my email account. My cell phone's out there as well. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. I'm always
Your website is?
I have my website right now that's being built, but I have one on Facebook as well. I'm redoing the website.
We will find you.
Yes,
because you are awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, Lillian.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Lillian, as well.
And please
come back. I would love that. Thank you.
Getting through it. Getting through